son's a dad.
Where are you
Texas
guys
by
from?
50.
I'm from Austin.
Okay.
So.
I'm from Brownsville, Texas, which
Where's
is
that at?
it's the last little city before you get to Mexico through Texas. So it's like the lowest point.
That's an hour west of that.
You're McAllen?
Yeah.
Hey! Holy shit! Puro pinche 956, papa. Oh!
The recording's having trouble.
If it's funky, let me go see. If it's funky, let's just run it on Crossfire.
Yeah.
In screw time. Yeah, we can.
Hey.
Good stuff. Coming up on the 1-0 Sports Show, we've got Texas running back Tre Newton, Alabama student journalist Robert Cortez, and everything you need to know about the big matchup at Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium tomorrow. It's all coming up on the 1-0 Sports Show.
Texas finally 1-0, finally riding for the brand.
I was watching the A&M LSU game with my father. He's an Aggie. And nothing brought me more joy. To throw the touchdown, he was like, oh no.
You heard it here first from Hunter. Book your plane tickets to Omaha today.
It's on a Saturday night. What y'all doing on Saturday night? Just come to the game.
Athletes come out and support the Longhorns. TCU doesn't have a shot against Texas in this game.
Hopefully, Welcome into the 1-0 Sports Show. I'm joined by Kylie Rodriguez. Kylie, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good.
First time hosting.
Yes.
Good to have you on.
Thank you. Yes.
Man,
Always a pleasure.
we've got a stacked show today. A lot of college football. Talk about Texas, Alabama. We've got a whole bunch for you coming up on that game later in the show. But we've got to start this show how we start every 1-0 Sports Show. Who's hot? Who's not? Kylie, let's start with you. Who's hot for you this week?
I'm going to say the U.S. women's team is hot for me because they came off 2 huge wins against Nigeria, and they're still ranked #1 in the world, and they're playing like it. And, yeah, they're hot for me. And they play England on October 7th, and they should win there, too, and continue on this because they have the depth to win a 5th star in the World Cup, in the upcoming 2023 World Cup.
Yeah, it's coming up. It's just under a year away.
Yes.
Next summer. So
Yes.
exciting. We've got the Men's World Cup this fall and then the Women's World Cup this summer. So going to be fun to watch them. I'm going to bring it back to college football. Man, there was a crazy game in North Carolina last week. Appalachian State taking on North Carolina. They combined for 62 points in the 4th quarter alone. Look at this crazy sequence. It starts with this touchdown pass to Deshaun Davis. This is with 30 seconds left. App State at home against North Carolina. They say they're going to go for 2, but Chase Bryce, he just overthrows Davis there, and it seems like game over. Heartbreak for App State. But we're not done yet. North Carolina, just fall on it. But no, Bryson Nesbitt, he takes it to the house. The only issue is North Carolina only goes up by 8. It's still 1-score game. So App State, they're going to get another go at it. And again, Chase Bryce and the Mountaineers deliver. That's Caden Robinson down the middle. That's a score with 9 seconds to go. So now App State really needs a 2-point conversion to keep this alive. But it's all for naught. Chase Bryce is going to be stopped short. I mean, App State scored 6 touchdowns in the 4th quarter and still lost. Just an insane game. Definitely early contender for Game of the Year. Yeah, so let's flip it. Let's flip it. That was a crazy game. Now let's flip it to something that wasn't so hot. Let's go to who's not. Kylie, who's not hot for you this week?
For me, it's the Chelsea Football Club because, you know, they fired Thomas Tuchel, which was like out of the blue. They weren't playing Christian Pulisic, who is the U.S. men's team star, and he's a valuable asset, and they weren't using him. They lost to in their summer tour. They lost to Charlotte FC, an MLS team, and they just haven't been playing like the top 3 Premier League contender that they are. So there's a lot of things going on with them, and they're just not it today, and hopefully they get there soon, but we'll see.
Yeah, that loss there, Dynamo Zagreb, they lost them in the Champions League opener this week. Interesting hire, though. They go Graham Potter, former Swansea manager, so I've seen his work, plays a good style possession football. He's been working wonders with Brighton, so going to be fun to see what he can do at Chelsea. I'm going to go back to college football because we love college football on this show for my who's not, and it's the poor college kickers. Owen Daffer, the East Carolina kicker, excuse me. He had a rough day on Saturday against North Carolina State. First missing the extra point after the touchdown by the Pirates here. That's U.S. women's soccer. That's not college football. We're all over the place, but it's okay. It's okay. And then he has a chance to win it, 42-yard field goal, and he shanks it way wide. A disappointing result for East Carolina. Two big chances to win. Instead, they fall 21-20. So definitely not how Owen Daffer probably envisioned his day going. Let's flip it now over to what's trending because NFL is back. It started last night. Bills, Rams, and the Bills, I mean, they launched the Rams into the universe. 31-10 win over the defending Super Bowl champions. So, Kylie, what's your takeaway from that game?
It was a good game in the first half because they kept turning interceptions over and over. But, I mean, the Bills' defense really showed up with forcing 3 turnovers for the Rams. And I think both teams made some mistakes. But the Bills were able to, come back and, fix it. And, Josh Allen threw, 4 touchdowns. And he threw some interceptions, but he made up for it with winning the game. And just Los Angeles, it didn't really look like anything was going right with them. They weren't working offensively. They were really working defensively. But my big takeaway is that the Bills team is not to be reckoned with this season.
Yeah, both teams got to clean up a little bit. The Bills had 4 turnovers and still won this game by 21. That's impressive. Josh Allen, 350 total yards, 300 through the air, 50 more on the ground. Bills' passing game looks good. Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis. Everyone's been hyped about him in the offseason. He showed up with an early touchdown last night. Going to be fun to watch them. The Bills got to figure out the backfield, though. They got kind of a 3-headed monster with Singletary, Moss, and James Cook, and neither was entirely effective last night. So going to be interesting to see if they can add that running back dimension to what looks to be an explosive offense. So they're going to be fun to watch. Everyone's they've been talking about the Bills a lot after that crazy playoff game against the Chiefs last year. So going to be fun to see what Josh Allen company can do this year. Now we're going to have a quick segment. We're going to have some NFL predictions for the season ahead with everyone else set to kick off on Sunday and Monday. So Kylie, for you, who's a sleeper NFL team that maybe people aren't talking about who could make some noise this year?
I went with the Baltimore Ravens because they don't get the credit they deserve. They are a real AFC North, an AFC North contender. I mean, they have their draft class with first-round picks, Kyle Hamilton, who should make an impact pretty soon, and first-round pick center Tyler Litterman and defensive tackle Travis Jones. And they have a steady quarterback, which some other teams in the league don't have a steady quarterback with Lamar Jackson. So I think they're among the best teams in the AFC North right now, and I think they can really make a real run at the AFC North division and go far in the playoffs.
AFC North is ridiculous. You got the Bengals and Joe Burrow. You got Cleveland, who eventually have Deshaun Watson back. We should see what Jacoby Brissett there does for the first 11 games. And you got the Steelers, who are rebuilding a little bit at quarterback. But I mean, that is a historically probably the best NFL team, arguably. And so it's going to be interesting to see in the AFC North. I'm going to stay in the North, but I'm going to flip over to the NFC. Man, I love me some Dan Campbell. I don't know if the Detroit Lions are going to be a playoff team this year, but that is going to be a better team this year. Do not sleep on them. DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, look at this. This was last Week 18 against the Packers last year. I mean, they're pulling out wide receiver passes. They're pulling out flea flickers. They had some fun. They give this Packers team a run for their money late on in the year. So in the NFC North, there's a little bit of a vacuum there. I never trust the Bears' offense. They haven't been good in years. We'll see what Justin Fields can do. We'll see what the Vikings, Kirk Cousins, aging a little bit. I think they might take a step back. So, and then Aaron Rodgers, he doesn't really have much skill talent around him, especially out the receiver position. So, be interested to see what we see in the NFC North. I don't think the Lions are going to be world beaters, but don't be surprised if this team is much improved from last year. Don't be surprised if they're pushing 7-8 wins on the year. I believe what Dan Campbell is doing in Detroit. So now moving over from sleeper, let's go from sleeper to MVP. Kylie, who's your early season NFL MVP prediction?
I have to go with Josh Allen just because his performance last night was amazing. Well, not amazing because he threw interceptions, but it was pretty good. And, he has an amazing arm strength that gets him to throw the ball. His interception rating was like 15 last year, but he can improve. He threw 2 last night, but we'll see. And if he works on his completion rating, which is only at 63, he could be I mean, he's still, with that completion rating, he's still one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the league.
Yeah, I agree. The AFC is stacked with quarterbacks. I mean, you look at Patrick Mahomes, you look at the Justin Herberts. I mean, this league, Lamar Jackson, there's a ton of playmakers. I'm going to go Josh Allen, too. I think this is just the Bills' year. I think after the playoff heartbreak last year, they've got an explosive offense. We've seen Gabriel Davis step up as that second option alongside Stephon Diggs. They've got a wealth of talent in the backfield at running back. They've just got to figure out who's going to be their guy this year with Moss, Singletary, and James Cook all competing. But I just think Josh Allen, he's going to make plays with his feet. He's going to make plays deep through the air. We saw he had 55-yard touchdown passes to Stephon Diggs last night. So the Bills think they're going to be Super Bowl contenders. I think Josh Allen's going to carry them there. I think he gets Super Bowl MVP. I'll take him over. Not Super Bowl MVP. NFL MVP. Patrick Mahomes, Chiefs, he's lost some of his targets, lost Tyreek Hill. So I'm going to give Josh Allen the early kind of heads up in the MVP race. Now let's go from MVP. Last part of this segment. Super Bowl predictions. Kylie, who you got facing off in the Super Bowl come February?
I have the Bills and the Packers. I just think the Bills can get there because they have a great defense. They have a great offense. And, yes, they have question marks in that field, but they're pretty much firing on all cylinders. You know, with Josh Allen, they have the offensive tools with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. And, yeah, I mean, their defense is really good, too. They forced 3 turnovers last night, and that's just the beginning. So I think I got the Bills. And then I put the Packers for the NFC because, you know, Tom Brady's been kind of a question mark with, like, being 11 days. He's getting older. He doesn't, you know, like, there's just question marks there. And, like, the Packers, yeah, they don't have that much, but I think they can get it done. And, like, Aaron Rodgers has been to the Super Bowl, and he's, like, getting older, too, and he's going to want to go to the Super Bowl, so I think they fight. But I do take the Bills winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think the AFC is stacked. I think it's going to be an absolute, you know, it's going to be a slugfest trying to get out of the AFC when you look at the amount of talent there. So, but I'm going to go Bills. I just feel like this is the Bills' year. I think this is the year that they finally break through. They've been on the edge. They were so close. They had that heartbreaking overtime loss last year that we keep referencing. I just feel like this is the year that the Bills break through. NFC, it's a little bit more wide open. I'm going to go Buccaneers. You can't keep fooling me, Tom Brady. I just feel like, and he's got a lot of skill talent around him. You look at Chris Godwin. You look at Mike Evans. They picked up Russell Gage. They got Julio Jones there. They got to figure out the running back situation. Let's see what Leonard Fournette can do this year. But I just feel like Tom Brady can keep the Bucs going, especially because the NFC is a little bit weaker at the top. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a ton of skill talent around him. The Rams, I think, are a threat to get back, but they lost by 21 last night. So maybe we'll see what's up with them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep trusting Tom Brady. I'm going to go Bills and Bucs in the Super Bowl, and that would be a really fun one to watch. It's kind of the new guard of the NFL with Josh Allen against the old guard of Tom Brady. We shall see. But when we come back, Manny Ramirez, he's going to join the show. He's going to help us break down some of the highlights of the week. You won't want to miss it. You're watching the One and No Sports Show.
Good luck.
Sweet.
Pull up a chair.
Yeah,
Yes.
we can kind of slide to the side and even split us.
Sure you have it working.
What? Are you telling me my friends can't see me?
They can see you later when it goes up on YouTube.
I put this on my Instagram. I put this on my Snapchat. I sent it to ESPN. No, but
I really wish they have our headsets ready.
Are they not working?
No.
Oh, that sucks.
But like everything in this studio, stuff just starts to break apart.
Yeah.
hook 'em.
No.
Can I not?
No, we or us.
Right, yeah.
Comes to that.
Hey. So I've kicked them off now. Now I'm hosting. Welcome. Welcome to the One.
You can hear Manny, right? Okay.
Unique, New York. Unique, New York. I will say, Cooper Kupp gave me some good points last night on fantasy, so
That's true.
you know what? Him and Tyler Higbee, they got garbage minute points, and I will take it. Matthew Stafford only gave me 6 points, which I'm not happy about.
It's Matthew Stafford.
But my opponent had Austin Eckler, who laid a goose egg. So, you know, I think I'm cool.
All right, y'all ready to do it?
Yep.
Let's do it. The stream, I believe, is working now.
Nice.
Sweet. Oh, Kylie, you'll go first on these highlights. So we'll start
Okay.
with your highlights, and then just remember that one with the cannon has sound, so we'll be quiet during that.
Okay.
Welcome back into the 1-0 Sports Show. Manny Ramirez joining us now. Manny, looking clean in that suit. How you doing this
Appreciate it.
morning?
Thank you. Got up early just for the show, man. Just the show. I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna have some fun now. It's time to break down the highlights of the week. So let's get rolling. Kylie, we got to start off traditional American sport. Let's go best baseball play of the week.
Yes.
So Kylie, what have you got for us?
Well, mine comes from the St. Louis Cardinals. Were playing the Nationals last night, and they were down 5-1 in the 9th inning. There's no way they can come back, right? But then Nolan Arenado started the comeback with an RBI double.
How to bring that time
Double
run
run.
to the plate.
And then
Arenado
Tommy
hits it
Edman
down the
capped
right
it
field
with a
line,
walk-off
slicing,
two-run double in
fair.
the 9th inning. And the St. Louis Cardinals
Over
would
the
win
sidewall,
the game against
a
the Nationals
ground
6-5.
rule double, a run will score,
great comeback
nobody
there.
Yeah.
out.
Arenado getting
Here in this
back.
ninth
Ground
inning.
rule
Yeah.
double. So that started the comeback, crazy comeback. For me, I'm going to go over to the Phillies. Look at this tag here by Phillies shortstop Edmundo Sosa. If we can get the highlight up. Look at this acrobatic. So he's going to throw out. Look at this. He's in the air. He makes the tag in the air between his legs. Heck of an acrobatic play by the Phillies shortstop. Here it is, a little bit slower motion. I mean, that's some athleticism right there. He's in the air and he makes the tag. Fantastic play for Edmundo Sosa. So, Manny, what do you think? What's the best baseball play of the week for you? Is it the Cards comeback or the tag?
It's got to be the tag. Jumping like Jordan, man. Wow, look at that jump. Oh my goodness. Complete acrobatic play. Throw was a little bit off from the catcher. Had to, you know, make a play, and he definitely did. I mean, there's nothing better than a comeback rally, but you got to give the individual play some love.
I don't know if I've ever seen a tag as we're going to
Oh.
jump forward. We're
Oh.
excited, man. Let's go best college football catch. Kylie, what you got?
During the Florida State versus LSU game, which was an incredible game, there was a one-handed over-the-shoulder catch in the end zone by Florida State wide receiver Oriental Wilson, and he the way he controlled it was like amazing, like because it was over, like it came over and he like still caught it. And this one later that the quarterback would get hit and it would be called a targeting play too, so there's double. But that catch was amazing, like it came over his shoulder and everything like that. So.
Oh man, I actually didn't
You
realize.
see like how he controlled it too. Sorry.
I didn't realize because that targeting play was blatant. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that was on the touchdown. Man, credit to the quarterback, man. He's stuck in there. He took
Yeah.
a
Oh, yeah.
heck of a catch in the end zone. Let's go to Notre Dame, Ohio State. Another big primetime matchup from this past week. Look at Notre Dame receiver Matt Solano here. If we can get the highlight rolling, they are taking on the Buckeyes. Look at this juggling catch. He's going to be thrown up down the sideline. Solano on his back is eventually going to come down with it. The juggling catch, he kept it alive. Here's a little bit slower motion. Look at this. The ball's going to pop up there off his hand, and he controls it on the ground. Fantastic catch by Matt Solano. So, Manny, two fantastic catches in prime time.
Yeah.
Who you got for the best week one college football catch?
You know, it was great concentration on this end, but I mean, everything that had to go into FSU to get that catch. I mean, like you said, the blatant target, that he took a shot. And just to be able to stand in the pocket and deliver a strike right over, beautiful ball as well. And then on the same side of that catch, you know, you had the LSU defender just draped all over his left shoulder, grabbing, holding everything. And the guy just muscled him off, one-handed, cradled it in for the touchdown. Credit to the quarterback. He got right back up after that and, you know, celebrated with his team. I got to give it to the FSU team.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, shout out to the LSU player called for targeting. He did reach out to the Florida State quarterback after the game, and they had a positive conversation. But, yeah, great point, man. LSU did everything on that play to try to keep Florida State from scoring.
Yeah.
Still pulling off a great play. So let's go from best week one college football catch to just the best week one college football play as a whole. Kylie, what do you have for us?
For me, it had to be the game between UTSA and Houston, which was crazy because it went into 3 overtimes. But when Frank Harris threw the ball, he threw the ball to Oscar Cardenas down the middle 20-yard line, then hiking the ball at 2 seconds. And then they kicked it and got a field goal and tied the game and went into overtime.
Yeah, for sure. How about this run, too, by Clayton?
Yeah.
Look at him
Just
over the top.
Over the top, yeah.
Yeah, heck of a score there by Toon. That was a crazy game. Quick
It was.
aside, they need to get rid of the 2-point conversion rule. That's no way to
Yeah,
decide a
they
game in triple overtime. Let's go from that. Let's switch over to the other game. So I'm going to go back to that Florida State LSU game. This game ended in dramatic fashion. LSU goes 99 yards. They tie the game on the final play. And then this happened. Florida State blocks the extra point. How about that from your special teams unit coming up when you need it the most? My who's not could have been the LSU special teams unit. They had 2 muff punts and 2 block kicks. But how about the Florida State Seminoles rising up at the right time to win the game? So, man, a lot of clutch moments. We had the UTSA Houston overtime plays. We got the Florida State block extra point.
Yeah.
Manny, who's your best play of the week?
Man, that is so tough, because that's why we love sports.
Yeah.
That's why we love sports. Just you never know what's going to happen on this next play, and that could be the one that makes it, to Sports Center #1. I gotta go just for the individual, just grit and toughness. I gotta go with Houston. You know, just going over the top, putting your body on the line for the winner. Shout out to FSU. What a game!
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, what a game! I mean, that thing came down to the wire, and it was just back and forth. I remember tuning into the game every now and then. I'd be like, oh, well, it's said and done. It's over with. And then I flip back a couple minutes later, and it's a close game once again, and I have no idea how it's going. But, I mean, this is why we love sports. But I got to give it to the Houston quarterback. Shout out to him going over the top for the win. Put just his body on the line.
Yeah.
Got to give it to him.
Hey, big players make big-time plays in that moment. So, Clayton Toon there for the Houston Cougars. So, we talked about some of the best of the week. Now let's go to some of the worst. What's our worst blooper of the week? Kylie, let's start with you.
During the college football game between Mars Hill and East Tennessee State, East Tennessee State missed an extra point after a cannon went off and it fired right before the attempt. It clearly startled the kicker and the holder. So yeah, that's what
AT successful initial scoring drive for ETSU, as I think Keltner got a little scared there by the cannon going off in his backswing. That's a little interesting, but nearly gathered the football up and went for 2. That's going to be one of the most bizarre PATs you'll see all year. And folks, you got a chance to see it on the opening drive of the season.
You're not kidding. Keltner is as steady as they come. I don't know what happened. Like you said, I guess the cannon guy, they may fire him after this.
Yeah,
I think he's.
Yeah, so the cannon going off. I've never seen that cannon starting the kicker. Although I can't blame man. Sometimes
are you kidding me?
Okay, Roy, especially in the pregame, you're not expecting, man. You jump a little bit.
Oh, man.
They're doing him wrong. How about this? Let's stay with some special teams. Let's go out west. Arizona taking on San Diego State. Arizona punting from its own end zone, which what could go wrong when you're trying to punt from your own end zone? Let's see if we can get the highlight rolling. And you're always afraid of the blocked punt. But how about when your own guy blocks it? Let's go. Let's take a look here at the replay. They'll give us another better angle. He's going to kick it off his own lineman right there. That's a tough scene. You hate to see San Diego State's going to get a touchdown for that. There's one more. I think the best angle is right here. Look at that, right off his own lineman's hand. Man, that's a free touchdown for San Diego State. So, Manny, special teams woes. What's your worst blooper of the week?
You always expect something to go wrong when you're in your own end zone punting, right? But come on, pyro guy. You're going to send off the cannon at the wrong time? I mean, come on. What are we doing here? Like you said, the DKR cannon, that one's loud. And I do not blame the kicker or the holder at all because, it's supposed to be a not calm environment, but, you deal with the crowd noise and you do your job and you kick it through the uprights. But to have a cannon go off as you're about to plant and kick, no, I gotta go biggest blunder. Gotta go with the pyro guy. Do your job better. Come on, man.
Man, I know the pyro guy's gonna be working this weekend. He may have been relieved.
Yeah, he may be relieved.
Because it's for the own team. They're celebrating their own.
Yeah, exactly. So.
That tough scene out there, man. Let's go. Let's end it up. Show and tell. We can just bring anything, any clip, anything you think's whatever. Kylie, what have you got for show and tell today?
I don't have a clip, but since the NFL is back, I wanted to highlight that 15 women have coaching roles in the NFL, which is the most ever in any professional male field. So I just want to highlight that because football season's back and everything. But it's good to highlight women.
That's a killer, man. That's a really good stat, man. It's good to see the NFL making those strides on diversity. Man, we're going from something super serious to something super not. Now, I brought up John Daly. He still plays around the PGA every once in a while. He was on the SEC pregame show last week. Admitted he was A little bit. He had had some beverages before coming on air. So let's see. But he was throwing the first pitch out in the Nationals game this weekend. If we can roll the clip on that. And look at this. This man. I mean, he fired a strike. Yeah, the bullet. So I don't know. Maybe I think he was only drinking water before this on the strike. So Manny, what you got for show and tell? You got.
I think it's so great to see the progression that we have going on, in the NFL, and everybody's happy football's back. I mean, it feels like Christmas right now. You know what I mean? First game, not what we expected at all from the Rams and the Bills. I expected a lot closer of a game. I will say, shout out Cooper Kupp because he gave me over 30 points on fantasy.
There you go.
I appreciate it. But Matt, if a club needs some bullpen help going into the later part of the season, hey, call up Daly.
John Daly,
call him up. See if he can throw a couple innings. If he throws about 2, hey, we'll take it. You know what I mean? So great stuff all around. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Manny, it's a pleasure joining.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate y'all.
When we come back, man, we've got a special treat for you. Former Texas running back from that 2009 National Championship runner-up team, Tre Newton, joins the 1-0 Sports Show to break down his memories of that year and taking on Alabama. You won't want to miss it. You're watching the 1-0 Sports Show.
Great block.
Cool. Good stuff, y'all.
I think,
Oh, yes.
let's see. I don't think we need, yeah, it's right there. I think we can just play straight into the video. I don't think we need to come back.
Yeah, maybe we can just go straight into it.
Yeah, and then, Manny, do you want to give your mic to Robert?
Yeah, sure.
He told me to bring some, so I just bought some stuff.
Yeah, we can put it up.
Well, what a treat this is. I want to welcome into the 1-0 Sports Show former Texas running back Tre Newton. Tre, how are you doing?
Doing great. Doing good.
Man, it's a pleasure to have you on. Obviously, a big week. Texas, Alabama playing for the first time since that national championship game. But before we get into all that, why don't you update Texas fans? Obviously, you walked away from football in 2010. So kind of what have you been up to since then? And is walking away from football, is that a decision that you're glad you made?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I wasn't too happy that I had to make that decision due to concussions. But looking back, it was actually good for me. It taught me a lot. It was something else I kind of had to persevere through and work through in my life. But since that moment, my life has been pretty good. I still do miss football. I definitely in no way can take a hit anymore like I used to. I think if somebody hit me, I might die. So this life is a lot easier on the body.
Yeah, for sure. And so you talked a little bit about football. Let's dive back into Tre Newton, the football player. Obviously, you're a 4-year starter at South Lake Carroll, star player there. You had offers from a lot of schools. You had offers, from Kansas and Nebraska too, fellow Big 12 schools. So what led you to choose Texas? What led you to go play football under Mac Brown, the Longhorns?
So what let me choose Texas? So I had offers from some other schools, and I really didn't think Texas was going to offer me. I had been offered by, I think at that time, like Florida, Notre Dame, some other schools like that I was interested in. My dad was from Florida, Notre Dame. I grew up watching Rudy, so I was a huge Notre Dame fan as well. Florida State. So I had other options, and then when Texas offered me, I was a little shocked just because I hadn't received much mail from them. But with it being 3 hours from Dallas, that made it simple. So I already knew that my parents would be able to come to a lot of my games. And then also at that time, you have to think about the running backs that Texas had put in the NFL. And that was my ultimate goal at the time. So with Cedric Benson, Ricky Williams, Jamal Charles, Selvin Young, the list goes on and on. Priest Holmes before Ricky. So there was a lot of great backs that had gone to the NFL from Texas, so that had a big influence on my decision.
Yeah, for sure. And then once you eventually got to Texas, you got to play on a pretty special 2019 13-1 record. Big 12 champions made that run in the national championship against Alabama. So kind of looking back on it, what made that 2009 team so special in your eyes?
I think what made it special, so we were building off 2008 season where we played in the Fiesta Bowl. And I think a lot of us on that team were disappointed that we couldn't get over that hump and make it to the national championship. So going into that 2009 season, we all had the mentality that, it was kind of championship or bust mentality. We obviously had our goals within the season that we were trying to achieve, but the ultimate goal for us with the amount of talent that we had was on that national championship. And it really started in the off season. We competed literally in every drill. If we were just running sprints outside, we were competing against each other, trying to beat each other. And then that translated into fall camp and into the season where every day was just a competition, regardless what drill we were doing. We were challenging each other, offense, defense, special teams. And that just poured over onto the field whenever we would go against the opponent. We just took that same mentality that we had in practice.
For sure, and that intensity and competition definitely paid off. 13-0 heading into that game against Alabama in the Rose Bowl. So for you as a player, as a freshman, how special was it going into the Rose Bowl to play a marquee Alabama program? Kind of what were the emotions for you heading into that game?
Oh, it was exciting. It was exciting. That game by far had the most media attention. We had a media day that I was a part of. So you're getting asked a million questions. And for me, the last time I had kind of been on a stage like that was when I was young. I was probably 7, 8 years old when my dad played in the Super Bowl. And that's what it really reminded me of. You had all the lights and cameras before the game, pre-game cameras following you. And it was just a lot of hype around the game, and it was exciting. It was a great experience. I always tell people, it always is terrible losing, right? I hated the fact that we lost, but that experience is something I'll definitely carry with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one play that a lot of Texas fans will be thinking back to is that faithful kind of quarterback sneak by Colt McCoy, knocked out of the ball game with a shoulder injury. So kind of going back to when you realize your starting quarterback's not coming back, the game is now in Garrett Gilbert's hands. Kind of what were your emotions? What was going through your mind? Kind of what were the emotions on the sideline as your team processed to going from a quarterback like Colt McCoy to kind of Garrett Gilbert getting thrown into the fire a little bit?
Yeah, when it immediately happened, as a player being out on the field, you don't really notice too much, right? Because you have your own things that you're worried about. But a quick funny story about that. So we call timeout when Colt gets hurt, right? Because we need to regroup, figure out what's going on. So we're running off the field, and Garrett Gilbert is running on the field. And I'm like, hey, Garrett, we called timeout. And he's like, hey, what's the play? I'm like, Garrett, we called timeout. He's like, no, I need the play. I was like, Garrett, man, chill out. We called timeout. And he unbuckles his chin strap. He's like, oh, yeah, man, I knew that. And so at that moment, I was like, oh, we're going to have to help Garrett out a little bit. Don't get me wrong. Garrett had extreme arm talent. But getting thrown into your first game, being the national championship, that's a tall task, right? So I immediately – when that happened, I kind of had in the back of my mind, Coach Davis, Greg Davis, offensive coordinator at the time, is probably going to run the ball pretty heavy here until try to get Greg settled. The only issue with that is Alabama had a lot of people on the D line that went on to play on Sundays. So that was a little tough, but it really didn't hit us as a team until we got to the locker room. I think that's when everybody noticed, like, oh, Colt's not coming back. But at that time, we had so much confidence that we still believed that we could get out there and win. Unfortunately, we didn't. But as far as from a confidence standpoint, we just all knew we had to pick it up a little bit. But I don't think anybody had any doubt that we could win or not.
For sure. I mean, you guys still gave Alabama a game. Garrett Gilbert, you guys got to within 3 points late in that fourth quarter, just didn't fall y'all's way, unfortunately. But kind of turning the page away from that national championship, you obviously, on that 09 Texas team, the next year in 2010, you played in some big-time ball games. So kind of looking back, is there another moment or games that kind of stick out to you as one of your favorite memories as being a Longhorn?
I would say one of my believe it or not, right? A lot of Texas fans don't realize this or don't want to admit it, but Texas actually doesn't have a lot of outright Big 12 championships, right? OU unfortunately has kind of dominated that field. So winning a Big 12 championship, that game before the national championship was huge, right? To get the Big 12 championship ring. Obviously, we were playing against Sioux and a good Nebraska defense. It was a closer game than we honestly expected going into it as well. So to get that Big 12 championship was nice. It would have been even sweeter to get the national championship after. But other than the national championship, that Big 12 championship was probably the biggest game I played in. And then me personally, I obviously, as a running back or any skill position, your first touchdown, which mine came against Wyoming earlier in that year. So those two moments were pretty special for me.
One quick aside on that Nebraska game. Were you pretty sure there was still a second left on the clock? I know that was kind of a crazy ending.
I honestly didn't know. I thought because Colt is always usually really on top of everything that's going on, especially because he was a senior then. He really understood the game, and so we knew going into that play. I think it was a rollout to the right, if I believe correctly. The call was, if you don't see anything, just throw it away quick. Right. And so I kind of stopped blocking and I turned around. I was like, oh, man, Colt still has the ball. And then when all the Nebraska fans started running on the field, I was like, oh, wow. And I hadn't really set in yet. But then when they reviewed it and there was 1 second, I believe the ball did hit the railing if people want to go back and check that. And so and then we went on and made the field goal to win it. So that was a fun game.
For sure. And then final question for you now, fast forwarding to this week, and obviously you played in a lot of big time games. So can you just put, as a former Texas player, how special is it having Alabama come to Austin for a marquee non-conference matchup?
Oh, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I was going to be down there. My wife is pregnant right now. We're expecting our first kid. So I'm not able to make it down to the game, but it's going to be fun. I was actually going to reach out to my former roommate Blake Gideon, who's now a coach for Texas, to see kind of how the guys were feeling and about this game. But no, I mean, Alabama, #1 team in the nation, coming to Austin. Last time we played them was 09 in that national championship. So it's going to be a big game. I just hope that Texas understands that as far as talent, we're not quite there yet, right? And so this game should not define us, but I expect us to go out there and compete and, play together and not make mistakes and not really make it easy on Bama, right? We put up a good fight, play hard. So I'm excited about it. 11 a.m. kickoff, so I don't have to sit around and wait for it. We can get right to it. I know fans don't like those, but as players, you always appreciate that because you don't have to sit around in the hotel all day. But it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be exciting. I'm excited to see the guys play.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely gonna be a fun one. Definitely gonna be a hot one. I guarantee you, Darrell K. Roy Memorial Stadium will be packed to the brim on Saturday. One of the biggest non-conference matchups for the Longhorns in the past decade. Tre, thank you so much for joining the One and O Sports Show. Thanks for helping us break down this weekend.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. When we come back, we've got a treat. Alabama student journalist Robert Cortez will be in studio. You won't want to miss it. He'll help us preview the Alabama side of Texas's big non-conference showdown this Saturday. You won't want to miss it. You're watching the One and O Sports Show. Is it going to be the bump?
What?
Welcome back into the 1-0 Sports Show. It's time to get down to business, and we have got an absolute treat in studio. Joining us all the way from Alabama, Robert Cortez. Robert, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it and ready to talk some football.
Yeah, man, it's really cool to have someone from another school in studio. We do a lot of phone interviews and stuff, so it's really awesome to have you here. So, first question, I know you're busy this week working with UT and Bama student media, so can you just kind of tell the audience a little bit kind of what you're up to over this next 24 hours?
Yeah, so ever since the spring semester of last school year, we have been working on content to produce, like talking with Game Day. We talked to Reese Davis. We'll talk to Game Day later this weekend. We'll talk to Fox Sports. We talked to Lindsay Lloyd, who's ESPN's Game Day producer. And yeah, I know we have a group doing Man on the Street, and we're just trying to produce as much content as we can, and hopefully some good stuff comes out of it, and hopefully you guys enjoy it.
That's awesome. Covering the game from every angle.
Yes.
Okay, what were your takeaways from week 1 against Utah State?
Yeah, I feel like it can be hard to have one major takeaway because, Alabama's supposed to take care of business, which it did, but I feel like if there's one major takeaway, it's that so far Alabama's living up to the expectation of reloading. And I say that because of big-time transfers like Jahmyr Gibbs and Jermaine Burton having a big showing against Utah State. Gibbs had 93 yards on the ground and averaged over 10 yards per carry, and then Burton had 2 touchdown passes. And yes, these 2 players are expected to, have an immediate impact, but sometimes it doesn't work like that. Sometimes it takes players a game or two to really get settled into the new system.
Yeah, for sure. You said the magic word there, reload. Alabama seems to do it every single year. So kind of going off of that, maybe who's a new player, who wasn't on the team last year or maybe is kind of about to break out? Who's one player who's not on people's radar who you think will have a big season for the Crimson Tide?
Yeah, I don't want to say this player is not on people's radars because he was a 4-star recruit. And I'm talking about freshman Kobe Prentice. And I think it's going to fly under people's radars because when you think of the Alabama offense, you think of Bryce Young, you think of Gibbs and Burton. But, I think Prentice is going to have a breakout year. And against Utah State, Prentice had 60 yards on 5 catches. So, not too shabby for the freshman, and I think he's going to have a big impact on the offense this year.
The Alabama recruiting pipeline never stops.
No, it doesn't.
What is the feeling around Alabama's campus heading into the game? Like, how big of a game is it for the Crimson Tide? Like, it's a big game for UT, but how big is it for you?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a buzz of excitement around Tuscaloosa. Anytime your school is going against another big-name school like Texas, who you haven't played in over a decade, there's going to be a lot of anticipation for a lot of adrenaline pumping through the veins of the people in Tuscaloosa. So yeah, and now I think every game's important, especially as a playoff hopeful. You want to start off the year strong. You don't want to drop a game early and then feel the pressure to, win out.
Yeah.
Now, as far as a big game, when you look back in 5 years, I don't think that'll have the asterisk next to it because Alabama's used to playing in conference championships and national championships almost every year. Yeah. So it's a big game right now, but I think when you look back in 5 years, it may not have that look to it.
Yeah.
Wild statistic, these 2 teams haven't played in the regular season in 100 years. It's been a lot of postseason matchups. So it is pretty unique that these 2 are facing off in a non-conference showdown. Moving on, this is probably such a loaded question. Who's the Alabama player Texas should be most concerned about? Probably all of them, but maybe who's a player that you're expecting to have a big game for the Crimson Tide tomorrow?
Yeah, it can be easy to say Bryce Young or Will Anderson, and rightfully so because they're Heisman hopefuls. But I'm going to go with Dallas Turner. One of the big talking points this offseason was, Dallas Turner's improvement from his freshman season last year to his sophomore season this year. And, I think Texas may be a little too hyper-fixated on Anderson, and that'll just make it that much easier for Turner to have a breakout game. But I really think it's going to show his progress in the offseason tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Texas O-line, they've got some young guys. They've got 2 freshmen starting, so we'll see what that Alabama front 7 can do tomorrow.
What will Texas need to do to pull off an unthinkable upset? Or what does Alabama need to do to take care of business? Basically, what's the key to victory for each team?
Yeah, I think there's 4 things Texas needs to do. And I think the first and maybe the most important is the crowd.
Yeah.
You know, last year Alabama lost on the road to Texas A&M and narrowly beat Florida. And I remember in the Florida game, the offense had to move to a silent count because the center had a hard time hearing Bryce Young, and that created a lot of false starts. So, you know, Alabama was pushed back. And then secondly, Texas has to limit the penalties and take care of the ball. So they have to do the little things right. You know, not let the moment get too big, not be too emotional, and yeah, take care of the ball. And then Texas has to capitalize on momentum plays. If they recover a fumble, if they have an interception, you have to score a touchdown. You have to make Alabama pay for it and not waste the freebies. And if Alabama misses a field goal, make a field goal of your own.
Yeah.
And lastly, if Alabama's going to score early on Texas, make sure it's a field goal. You don't want Bryce Young to lead the offense to 2 touchdowns on the first 2 drives because that'll give Saban and the Crimson Tide a lot of momentum. And then on the opposite end for Alabama, take care of the ball, trust in your game plan, and I think the Crimson Tide should be okay.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the turnover battle will decide the game tomorrow. I think Texas is going to have to flip that in dramatic, in their favor. I think they want to have a shot at that. We're going to pick that game, though, in the next block, so let's move on now. Let's go bigger picture. Alabama, this is a team that's a heavy favorite to take home the national title. So we're going to put you on the spot. Kind of how special is this team, you know, as far as Alabama teams go? You know, they seem like they're national contenders every year. How special is this team, and do you think the Crimson Tide will win the national championship this year?
Yeah, this team has definitely received a lot of rat poison, as Nick Saban would like to say, because everyone's talking about how special they are. But personally, they still have to prove it. Don't get me wrong, they have all the talent, all the experience to be a historic Alabama team. But until you show that you've overcome adversity or you've consistently played good football week after week, it's hard for me to say you're special. And there's only been 1 game in the season so far, so, you know, there's still a lot to prove. There's still a lot of the season left.
You're saying you didn't learn a ton from Utah State?
Like I said earlier, they were expected to handle business, and they did that. And as far as the national championship goes, it's very possible Saban will add another trophy to his trophy case, and Alabama will continue its dynasty. But you know what makes sports so special, and Manny hit on it earlier, is that sports can be unpredictable. Injuries can happen. A dark horse can happen. So we're going to have to see the story that the 2022 season has to tell.
It's going to be a fun story to watch. A lot of football still to be played this year, and it starts with a big one at DKR tomorrow morning. But when we come back, it's time to pick some of the top college football games of the week. We'll be picking them against the spread, ending the One and O Sports Show like we always do. Stay tuned. You're watching the One and O Sports Show.
Perfect.
Great block.
Yeah, that was awesome. Good stuff, man.
Thank you.
All right. Sweet. And then just a reminder, y'all, these are against the spread, the picks.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Are we looking at this one?
Yeah, we're just going to do this middle camera the whole time, the 3-shot.
We're going to do the camera 3. Okay, well.
Arlie, your last name's Rodriguez, right?
Yes.
Okay, just to make sure. Don't say me. Hold up. So whenever you guys are ready, we can go back in. Hold up.
All right.
We're good?
Y'all good?
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's finish it strong. We'll try to get out. We're right around an hour, so we got 10 minutes. So let's keep this like right at 10, and we'll be good to roll. Welcome back into the One and O Sports Show. It's time for one of our favorite parts of the week. It's time to make some picks. So, guys, let's jump right into it. We got Robert, our SEC expert here on the panel. So let's start with an SEC matchup. An old foe of Texas, Spencer Rattler. He's going to lead his South Carolina Gamecocks into Fayetteville for a big showdown against Arkansas. The Hogs, 8.5-point favorites. That one also tomorrow at 11. Kylie, let's start with you. Who do you have in that one?
I chose Arkansas just because Spencer Rattler's performance against last week against Cincinnati, last week. He didn't push the ball as much, and there were some misses on the offense. And like, if they play this like that this weekend in Arkansas, I think they're going to lose. And KJ Jefferson for Arkansas if he stays sharp throwing the ball like he did against the win over Cincinnati, I think the Hogs will take the win.
Great pick. I agree. I think KJ Jefferson's going to be the key. I think South Carolina will keep this close, but I think Arkansas eventually pulls away and covers, winning by 2 possessions. Their offense, they got to look a little bit better this week, though. They weren't, I think, as full up to speed as many thought they would be against Cincy. Robert, who you got in that one?
I have Arkansas covering.
Good pick, man. The Razorbacks, that's a clean sweep from the panel. Now let's move on. Another interesting matchup, Appalachian State. They played that crazy game against North Carolina. They're traveling to College Station. They've got number 6, Texas A&M. The Aggies getting 18 points in that one. Robert, who do you have?
I have Texas A&M covering. I really think their eyes are set on making the playoff, and, in order to do that, to take care of a team like Appalachian State, I think they'll do that.
I'm going to say not so fast. Haynes King, he's been turning over the football. I think the Aggies win this game, but Appalachian State is going to make them sweat. They've got too much offensive firepower. Last weekend, A&M only won 31-0, and it's because Team Houston could not generate anything offensively. These Mountaineers will generate offense. They will keep this one close, and A&M just going to squeak by the Mountaineers. Kylie, who do you have in that one?
I have Texas A&M winning. The only way the Appalachian State can win is if they outscore Texas A&M, but it's not likely because Texas A&M defense will stop them and not let them get as many points as they did with North Carolina. But yeah, so I have A&M winning because
you got them covered?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Big top 25 matchup in Pitt this weekend. Tennessee traveling to take on the Panthers. The Volunteers, though, despite being on the road, they're 6.5-point favorites. Kylie, who do you have in that one?
I actually have Pittsburgh going to win just because they have home advantage. The Tennessee's traveling to them, and their linebacker Bengley Karma and defensive lineman Jordan Morgan III had great performances last week, but they need to be careful with Tennessee's defense, which forced 3 turnovers against Ball State. But I think it's going to be close, but I still think Pittsburgh takes it.
Yeah, I like Keaton Slovis. I like that Panthers offense. I'm not sure. This game's going to be close. There's no shot Tennessee covers, so give me Pittsburgh on the points. Robert, who do you have on that one?
I think Pittsburgh's going to come out with the win. I think after week 1 beating West Virginia in an energized game, I think that's really going to have the crowd, excited for this one, especially playing against an SEC school.
For sure. Now let's come back to Texas. Houston and UTSA played a heck of a matchup last week. Houston's on the road again. They're going up to Lubbock to take on Texas Tech. Texas Tech 3-point favorites in this one. Robert, who do you have in that game?
I have Houston winning this game. I think after struggling last week, they're going to be extra focused in practice this week, which will allow them to beat Texas Tech.
I'm going to say not so fast on this one. Texas Tech, they've got a backup quarterback, Donovan Smith, playing. So I was thinking Houston, but apparently Donovan Smith can ball. He came in, played the last 4 games last year, 6 touchdowns, only 1 interception, helped the Red Raiders upset Iowa State. Houston didn't know what to do with Frank Harris. I don't think they're going to know what to do with dual threat Donovan Smith. Give me Texas Tech. It's going to be a hostile environment up in Lubbock. Give me Red Raiders to win and cover. Kylie, who do you have?
I agree, yeah. I think Texas is going to win because, yes, Donovan Smith had a really good performance, like just breakout performance last week. And, yeah, I think they're going to take it. And Houston also didn't know. They went to 3 overtimes with UTSA. There was too many offensive mistakes. Yeah.
How about a rivalry game up in Iowa? Iowa succeeded in playing the ugliest game of football you'll ever see last week, and they scored 7 points without a single touchdown, field goal, and 2 safeties. Now they're hosting Iowa State, who's getting 3.5 points on the Hawkeyes. Kylie, who do you have in that one?
I actually have Iowa State because they were not offensively there, and Iowa State won like 41-10 in their last game. So I feel like Iowa State's the safer bet just because they didn't produce any touchdowns or any offensively. They're just not. But Iowa State is better than like even that. So yeah.
I'm going to say not so fast on this one. Give me the Hawkeyes. Their offense may not score at all, but that defense is legit. Iowa State's got a new quarterback, Hunter Deckers. They got a new running back because Breece Hall's graduated. I think this Iowa defense is going to give Iowa State fits offensively. Give me Iowa to win another ugly game at home and be their 7th straight over the Cyclones. Robert, who do you have?
I have Iowa winning. I think, a home game against an in-state rival, I think the crowd's going to be electric, and Iowa State's not used to, playing big games, so I think the moment might be too big for them.
Hammer the under in that one. Let's go back to the Big 12. Kansas traveling to take on West Virginia. West Virginia gained 13 points in this one. Robert, who do you have in this game?
I think it's an easy one. I think West Virginia wins.
Great pick. I think Kansas is going to be better this year, but JT Daniels and company, they're going to beat way too much. They gave Pittsburgh a heck of a ball game last week. I think they're going to beat Kansas by a couple of scores. They're going to cover that spread. Kylie, who do you have?
I have West Virginia winning. I think their defense is going to hold up. It held up in the last game. Pittsburgh only won by like 7 points. So I think their defense is going to hold up and win.
How about this one? An interesting SEC rivalry. Number 20 Kentucky traveling to take on number 12 Florida. Florida launching into the rankings after their big win over Utah this week. The Gators 4.5-point favorites in the Swamp. Kylie, who do you have in that game?
I'm going to go with Florida because not only did Florida win against number 7 Utah, but their defense held up, and Kentucky doesn't have their star running back, Chris Rodriguez, and the offensive line had issues keeping the backfield clean than last week. And Kentucky has only one win in Gainesville since 1979. So I think Florida keeps it.
That's a great
pick. Give me the Gators. I like some Anthony. Not Anthony, that was Butchers. No, yeah, Anthony Richardson. You threw me off. I got thrown off. Anthony Richardson, dual threat. He's going to give Kentucky fits. The Florida quarterback will. Give me the Gators by a touchdown. So this is going to be a good game, but give me Florida to win and cover. Robert, who do you have?
I'm not doing the Gator chomp, but I do think Florida is going to win. But I don't think they cover. I think it's going to come down to a last possession field goal.
Oh, it's going to be, that one will be a good one in the Swamp. Now let's flip out west. USC, Pac-12 opener. They're traveling to take on Stanford. That one, Saturday Night Football on ABC tomorrow. USC's getting 8.5 in that one. Robert, who do you have?
I have USC covering.
Yeah.
Great pick. I think Caleb Williams, Lincoln Riley, Jordan Addison, way too much for the Cardinals. USC wins this one big. They make a statement on Saturday Night Football. Kylie,
I agree, yes. I have USC winning with all their new transfers and having Caleb Williams, the quarterback, who has a completion rating of 83%. And their defense getting 23 of the 66 points last week against Rice. So I think they're going to win.
Yeah, USC, they laid it on Rice last week, so they certainly got the offense. Now, this isn't Pac-12 after dark, but we've got some top 25 late after dark. Baylor traveling to take on BYU, always a dangerous place to go into Provo after dark. BYU 3.5 point favorites in that one. Kylie, who do you have in that game?
I actually have Baylor just because both teams can have the ability to control the pace of the game, and it really depends on who controls the pace. And I think Baylor can because they are firing on cylinders, having a good quarterback, and their offensive line and defense can pose real threats to BYU's protection.
I have bad memories of when Texas went up here about 10 years ago. Taysom Hill gave them fits in a game that went close to midnight, I think, here in the Central Time Zone. This one's going to be the same thing. BYU at 312 rushing yards. They absolutely demolished South Florida this week. I think the Cougars are pulling an upset. Give me BYU over Baylor up in Provo, and they cover. Robert, who do you have?
I have no rhyme or reason for this pick. Maybe it's because we're in Texas right now, but I have Baylor beating BYU.
A lot of people are talking about Baylor as a Big 12 contender. We'll learn a lot more about the Bears after this game. And now it's time for the big one. Texas and Alabama. The Crimson Tide getting 20 points against the Longhorns tomorrow morning. It's going to be a packed OK Royal Memorial Stadium, probably one of the best atmosphere that's ever been at that stadium. I know people are going to get there early in the morning. So Kylie, who do you have in that game?
I have Alabama winning just because they're number one and they're playing like they're number one. And the Longhorns don't really it's just, yeah. But they're playing like number one. They have the good quarterback. They have all of their positions have depth in them, except maybe the corner because they're figuring stuff out. But, I have Alabama winning.
Are they covering?
Yep, they're covering.
Man, my initial instinct was Alabama's going to cover. I was saying probably like a 45-17 type thing last week. But my mind has changed after all the hype this week. I think Alabama's going to win this game. I'm not that crazy, but I think Texas can keep it within a couple of scores. Like you said, Robert, this Bama team's reloading a little bit. Texas, I think Bijan Robinson, Xavier Worthy, they're going to be two of the best players on the field. If Quinn Ewers can complete passes downfield, this Texas team cannot lose the turnover battle. I think they can keep this close. I think Bama probably wins by 14-17, but I think Texas can keep it close enough to cover. So give me Bama to win, but Texas is going to cover. They're going to make Bama sweat a little bit for this one. Robert, bring us home. Who you got?
You know, Saban is 1-2 last year against former assistants, marking his first loss against former assistants. And I think he wants to show that that was just a last season thing and it's not going to carry over. And it's not going to, you know, happen until 2023 when he retires. So, you know, I have Alabama winning and I have them covering.
Yeah. It's going to be a fun one. Robert, man, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for having me on.
We're excited to see the content that y'all are going to produce this weekend. It's going to be a heck of a weekend. Big shout out to Tre Newton. Thank you for him for coming on the 1-0 Sports Show. Kylie, killer job. Big thank you to Manny. Big thank you to Cece, Edley, Samantha Pearl backstage, everyone who makes the 1-0 show, Sports Show possible. Thank you for tuning in today. Make sure to be up, be loud tomorrow morning. Texas, Alabama doesn't get much better than this. For everyone here in studio and in Master Control, have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next Friday, same time, same place.
Yay!
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I guess
that was good.
That was fun.
Yeah, so.